So today I wanted to talk about what it's like moving from Ohio to London, England in your mid 20s. And for this first part, I want to kind of talk about the uglier side of that in the sense of like first moving over there and the loneliness that comes with that. Um yeah, anyway, so I moved to London in September 2022 when I was 23, and I went over there for a master's degree, and then I worked there for a year and a half. And I'm an incredibly blessed and privileged to have had that opportunity, first off. Um, but so obviously, when you first get there, and I was very resistant to going to a big city because I haven't loved New York City when I've visited in the past. I haven't been anytime recently, but I hated the idea of living in a big city. It just sounded so miserable, and it turned out to be the opposite. But when I first got there, I mean, everything is exciting, but also incredibly overwhelming and isolating. And thank God I had my class that I was in and those people there. But even then, like, they don't really know you, and you don't have anyone over in a different country who knows you. And so it can feel so extremely lonely, even though you have the phone and stuff. There's a time difference as well. And it's really, ew, there was a bug on my face. I knew it. And at the time, I had lived in Ohio my entire life, and I was just going through a breakup, like my first real bad breakup. That was kind of messy, and that only just intensified all these feelings 10 times more. Just the grief of leaving behind the place I've lived in my whole life and the people I love, and just feeling lonelier than ever and wanting to be excited about this big opportunity and trying so hard to. But I knew from everything I read that a lot of people say there's going to be some level of like depression for the first couple months moving abroad. And I kind of was preparing myself for that and just taking as best care of myself as possible, journaling every single day. To be honest, I cried every single day for like, I think 4 months. And yeah, it was like everything was amplified given the circumstances. And my grandma had recently passed away like 2 months prior to moving. And yeah, I wanted to read something I wrote a few months in that really encapsulates some of that. And also the grief of what home represents for me. My brother passed away like half a mile from my childhood house here, and I'm home right now. And just complicated family situations that keep you close to your family. And it was the first time that I couldn't just run home when I was scared or when I was having a panic attack or health anxiety or whatever the matter. I couldn't just jump in my car and drive home, which is what I could do when I was at Ohio State University. It was just like a 2.5 hour drive. I could just get home in a hurry at any point in time. If I was lonely, sad, struggling with my mental health, I could just run home. And I had none of that. So all of that's taken away from you. You don't really have access to like mental health care over there. Like I don't have access to my therapist anymore. And yeah, so I did like heavy work preparing for this coming in, but also I just leaned into my feelings and like let myself cry a bunch, journal a bunch. I went to the graveyard a lot because I literally felt like I was grieving like at the end of my relationship, which is so silly because I've literally grieved an actual like person who has died. But it with that same feeling after my breakup and moving to a new country, it was in my body. It felt similar to after my brother had died, like grief. I don't know what else to call it. Obviously a different kind of grief because logically I know that no one has died and like my life is going to go, like I have a beautiful life ahead of me, but it physically felt the same in my body, like this heaviness. And I just felt so alone and you're not guaranteed that everything's going to work out for you. You're not guaranteed friends. You're not guaranteed that you're going to end up being happy and thriving there. Like, for all I knew, I could be stuck in those feelings the whole time that I was there, that I wasn't going to find a job, and I wasn't going to find belonging there. None of that's promised to you. So on top of already dealing with the struggle of moving abroad, like, you're struggling with the feeling of not knowing if it's ever going to end and if any of this was worth it. So yeah, I was just trying to let myself feel everything, but also saying yes to everything and saying yes to every opportunity and every new person. And just knowing that, like, because so badly you want someone there who knows you and loves you, and like, that can't happen in 2 weeks with someone. And you kind of just have to surrender to the process of time that it takes to become known and to make friends and to have friends that feel like family. You just have to surrender to the fact that that takes time and that you're not going to have that. And I did lean a lot on my best friend from home. We would FaceTime like once a week. And that was so, so important to me, because I knew no matter what was happening over there, that every week I could call her and we could laugh about it, cry about it, whatever. So that was huge for me. And I'm incredibly grateful for that forever, to have gotten me through all of those times and to make me laugh about it, even when I was feeling so, so heavy. But yeah, so anyway, I wrote this poem, and it was just like, I was in between coming out of that kind of dark and lonely place and getting into the good parts, but not knowing that the good parts were coming and not entering them just yet. But in hindsight, that's where I was. And I was dreaming of going home, but I didn't want to go home because I had outgrown home and I felt like I didn't belong in Ohio anymore, but I also didn't feel like I belonged in London yet. And I just had nowhere to go. So I was dreaming of a future where I could go home to my childhood home and pretend that that the house was still ours and that everything was back to normal. It was just like a fantasy of that can't exist, essentially. I'm just gonna read it. Okay. Red and flashing, buses headed toward the city. I walk as if I'm not alone. Her breeze trails behind me. I came here with 4 suitcases. I came here with ghosts all around me, and I carry them every day like a bridal veil of memories. Here lies a graveyard of her laughs, a funeral for her freckles, a part of me that wanted to leave, and part of me that wanted to stay, until I turned to stone, to stay rooted in my history, because I don't want to die alone. Church bells are ringing, reminding me not to have faith in anything but the trees, believe in the trees and their leaves, the salt in the sea, the flowers that bloom in May, the setting of the September sun. September is where we'll stay. Initials carved in a rotten tree trunk. Maybe we'll grow back as fungi. I remember the snow that night so clearly, but my flight awaits me. The garage door is shutting. I hear my grandma's voice in passing. One day I'll be back, sitting under a willow tree. The cardinals will still be chirping. I'll pretend the cats are all still living. Then I promise to live simply. I swear I'll rest peacefully. I'll die under my willow tree. Until then, I'll talk to pigeons and turn people into religion while months keep on racing. My brother is aging. My brother's in a graveyard. One day, barefoot in a backyard. That's not even mine in the end. Time will stand still then. I'll be foraging for buckeyes. I'll be 13 again. We won't have met yet, and my ghosts will breathe again. So obviously, like, the center of that is blooming out of the breakup, but then it's just like I see my whole past through these flashing images, everything that I'm leaving behind, and not knowing if I'm going to stay in Europe. Like, I don't know if I'm leaving things behind for good. And I just start to see my life in these flashing images. And yeah, like, all these feelings that I'm feeling with the rotten tree trunk, because my brother had hit a tree and they since cut that tree down and it's just a rotten tree trunk. Well, there's nothing left there now, but it was a rotting tree trunk. And I remember the snow that night so clearly. The night my brother passed away, it was just like a flurry of snow. But then that also represents to me, because I say maybe we'll grow back as fungi, that out of that rotten tree trunk grew something else. And also on a night where there was heavy snow was when I was falling in love in the same place, in the same neighborhood. And so that this place represents to me the lowest lows of my life, but also the highest highs of my life, the people I've lost, the people I loved, and carrying those ghosts with me. And specifically that bridal veil of memories. I chose the word bridal veil because my grandma, before she passed away like 2 months before I left. And she had always told me that she wanted to see me wear this bridal veil that she had made by hand for my mom at my wedding. And I always promised I would try it on for her. And not knowing how much time we had left, I never did. And so she never got to see me in that. And so I just feel like I'm walking with ghosts, but also I'm walking with possibilities of what could have been. And just reflecting on what I'm leaving behind, and my journey of having lost faith in religion, with the church bells ringing. It's like a reminder to not have faith in anything and to believing in the trees. And I talk about this in my last video a lot as well, that the trees are something I can see that are real, that they have these cycles of life and death, and I always know that life will bloom again, all that. And just going back to being barefoot in a backyard collecting buckeyes like I did in my backyard when I was 13, right before anything bad had happened. And yeah, that's just kind of how I felt. And I was talking to the crows and the pigeons when I was in those graveyards in London in those first few months, just letting myself grieve and feeling everything so fully, and just honoring how sad I felt and how heavy it was and how horrible it was, and still having hope and faith that there was possibility here, and that I knew I couldn't be back there. So I have to look forward to the future, but still I was going to daydream about returning back home one day, but not quite home, into a place where everything is perfect, all the good parts of home. And obviously that doesn't exist. So, but that fantasy was just it was a comforting daydream to get me through those really hard months. And still this battle, it's just, I went through this for so long in London of, do you stay in your hometown to be close with your family, but then sacrifice the other parts of you, and sacrifice opportunities and people and like-minded people, and hinder your self-growth? But then obviously you have your family. But still, or do you go move somewhere where you become your best version of yourself? And I just kept asking people, everyone I met who had moved abroad and stayed abroad, kept asking them, how do you deal with being apart from your family? I don't even know. And I never got a satisfying answer. And I still can't decide, do I go move to California and live there, or do I stay in Europe and be with my family, or do I stay with my family? And I haven't reached a conclusion, and that's why I have a van right now, because it was like, I could not, even for those 2.5 years, even when I was having the best time of my life in London, I still could not stop fighting with wanting to be near my family, but not wanting to be with them all the time, and not being able to be with, but not being able to be without. And so I settled on a van so I can do both. And I feel like I'm kind of just drifting along, but that's the best compromise I've reached so far. I don't have a long-term plan right now, and I was not able to function trying to figure out a long-term plan. So this is where we are with that. And I think this poem kind of explores that too, that there isn't an answer to that. And instead, I would just dream of this perfect dream place that has everything. But yeah. And I think also when I moved to London, and I had been away for a few months, and then I would see pictures of people that I used to see, like my brother. Like I don't really talk to him a ton, so when I saw a picture of him for the first time after a few months, and a few months felt like light years when I had lived here in Ohio my whole life. My brother and sister went to the same university as me, like, and I saw a picture, and it was the first time that I had seen that he was aging, and his eyes were more sunken back. And then when I would look in the mirror, I would see that my eyes were more sunken back. And that was just the first time I've ever been aware that I am also, we're aging, that aging is occurring and you can see it. And I had never been aware of that before, like that we're not kids anymore. And looking at my brother, because I have one brother still and then another brother who passed away. So those were just all those things. And I felt like I had to decide if I was going to stay in London or leave London because time was passing. We're aging. Time is racing forward. Like I'm losing memories that my family is making. My sister was pregnant and had a baby. Like I felt like I had to make a decision. I have to stay or have to go. I have to compromise one or the other. I can't have both. It was exhausting. And yeah, and all this time I'm just essentially like oversharing about my breakup with everyone around me, literal strangers, and like not in a messy way, but just always finding a way to work into the conversation. Like always trying, but like using humor. Like that is just how I would cope with that. But honestly, I don't regret it at all because that's how I survived and that's how I made my friends. Like that's how we got super close and how we bonded over things. But like looking back, like there are some cringy things I said when I was in my feelings with my friends, but like they laugh about it with me. They're some of my best friends in the world now, and I do not regret it because I don't think I would have opened up the way I did without that. Like I was such a raw, vulnerable place, and I just went to London and I was just a sim and everyone else was a sim, and no one knew, like no one was holding me to any standard of who I was or who I should be because they don't know me. I'm a stranger. So I could just be anything, just be myself. And that was so liberating. So, yeah. And it was also nice because it was an ex-girlfriend. And so there's no reaction when I say that in London. And that was one of the most liberating things imaginable. And no reaction. Like they don't like 1 in 2 people in London is gay, like or they know they're good friends with a gay person or they work with a gay, like out gay person. Like it's nothing. It's like having blonde hair or red hair. Like no one is reacting in a big city like that. Like you're not special. No one cares. And that was so amazing. Oh my god. And they're also just generally, the UK is like more pagan, like than, and like even the people who are Christian, there's not like extreme, like there's not any like a lot of religious extremism the way there is in the US with like Christianity and Catholicism. There's a lot of like religious extremism here within that, and you don't get that over there, and it's just a breath of fresh air. Anyway, I'll talk about that in the next video, but I wanted to talk about the ugly, messier parts and the reality of moving abroad when you've lived in the same state your whole life, and a lot of that was spent with your family and going through a breakup and moving to London. So I really just relied on writing, crying, saying yes to everything, and oversharing my breakup with my peers who, yeah, I made some really good friends out of it. So thank you to my ex. I'm being so dead. I'm being so serious. I think I really would have had a hard time making friends because I would have been a little bit more shyer and a little bit more anxious and had a little bit less to talk about. But I was being so authentically myself because I had such overwhelmingly big feelings that I truly did not care how I was being perceived. And yet that going through that liberated me from caring about my self-perception because I just didn't care about anything else because I was feeling the worst feelings in the world. So it liberated me from caring about how I was perceived. So yeah, it worked out. That's all for this one.